Hello and welcome to Logan Sounds Off. I'm here in the National Concert Hall and I'm here talking to Richard Dawson, one of my favourite musicians ever. And I'm really excited to talk to him about his new studio album, End of the Middle, and his career to date. Rich, how are you feeling today?
All right, yeah, but quite tired, but fine. How about you?
I'm feeling good. I'm very excited for this interview. So before we get into the conversation, for those who maybe don't know much about your musical career, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, what to say? Uh, I've been playing music since I was 13, maybe, and then making albums since I was 27, something like that. I've maybe made 8, 9 albums over the last 15 years. Yeah, what else to tell? I don't really want to describe it. Yeah, yeah. No, it's not very succinct.
There's a lot to unpack in your career. Starting off with, I'd love to just talk about when you were 13, kind of getting into guitar. I know some of your inspirations growing up was Iron Maiden and then Kowali, Henry Maccabee. Across these couple of years, there was a lot of different music that you're exposed to. Could you tell us about your early life with music, how it first came into your life and what you were originally listening to?
Oh yeah, you mean when I was a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe my dad had like a revolving briefcase of cassettes that he'd recorded off the radio. So, loads of 60s stuff, kind of rock and roll and Beatles, and then some more metal stuff as well, Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. Some Captain Beefheart sticks out. Jimi Hendrix was a big one as well, like kind of mind blowing when you're just driving the Kremlin and shopping centre every weekend, and you have Jimi Hendrix melt in your face on the way to Concordia Leisure Centre. It's like, so though, that would be like my first exposure to music. And then my sister got into heavy metal and glam rock. And that's kind of how I heard Iron Maiden for the first time, the first album. And just went from there, really. Got into metal and heavy metal, and then thrash metal and death metal, and but also kind of twin stream of that was this local library, Gosforth Library. There must have been somebody really amazing and like switched on working there, because it had this fantastic jazz section, but like pretty out there. Like that was where I first heard Sun Ra and
Wow.
all John Coltrane and all of this stuff. But there was also a world music section there with Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and Bismillah Khan, Ali Farka Touré. All these names would, they just look like, wow, what's this? And you'd take them home for a week and just feel very confused by this music, but it was really important. I think I didn't realize how important the library was to me until years and years later. So those were the kind of first stages of exposure, I would say. And it's not like, I guess, like now you have, apologies if I'm wittering, I'm quite tired. Like everything is kind of gettable on the internet, like reachable. You still have to find it, but then, you had to get the physical thing, and you were limited by the amount of pocket money you had, or else you go to the library and you record it off a CD or whatever. Yeah. How about you? What was your first?
I think it was actually stoner rock for me when I was listening to music with my dad, like bands like Caius, because of how impactfully heavy that was to me, and just how kind of the bass and the guitar, the way it marries in some of the stoner rock songs, it's nearly quite meditative. You're really rolling in it, and then from there I kind of got into like really classic rock, like AC/DC, and then from there I kind of kept growing with my music taste. And then in the past like 2 years, I've tried to really expand what I've been listening to, like by listening to Sun Ra, as you mentioned earlier, or listening to where getting back to that meditative sound, like with bands like Sun or Boris, and that introduced me to a whole new layout of things. And then I recently listened to David Lynch's Eraserhead, the soundtrack, and I haven't watched the film,
Oh, it's
but
nice.
I listened to the soundtrack and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I've just been kind of absorbing myself in weirder music and trying to pick and choose from that, and trying to nearly grow as not only a listener but also as a musician, and maybe just as someone who loves artwork, by just being able to admire this really weird stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got David Lynch is. I mean, there's a lot to discover there. The soundtracks, Angelo Badalamenti soundtracks, fantastic for all of his films, but the films themselves as well are really special. I mean, I don't know how your family are with letting you watch 18s and stuff like that, but like in a little while, like I don't patronize it either, but
Yeah, it's fun.
Blue Velvet and um, Firewalk with Me are just wild at heart as well. Incredible films. So you're a musician?
Yeah, I play guitar, and I recently joined an ensemble in my county, and I play with about 5 other musicians, or 10. It depends on whether it's multiple ensembles playing or not. And I've played, I think, 2 sessions with them, and I've just kind of dipped my toe slightly into it. I'm way out of my depth, and I love it. It's brilliant to be able to learn how and like see these people who are my age or a little bit older, and they're completely amazing. And I'm going, wow. And it's driving me so much more to get better at what I do by seeing these other people who are nearly challenging me, going, this is what you can do. And I'm going, okay, well, I'd love to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And especially when you're hearing people like Sun Ra, who learned how to play theoretically and classically and then used that and made it his own, I kind of go, I'd love to be able to do that my own my own way someday. So that's why I really am enjoying learning jazz at the moment.
Great. Yeah, excuse me, the danger with the technical side is it can then obscure the feeling, or maybe you could get too locked on the road of what's the proper way to do things. But that sounds like a positive approach that you've got.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to be explored within music, and I think it's a way of expressing emotion, and emotion's never the same with anybody. And some people need to find other ways to express emotions than others, and that's why, like, with an album like Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart, although people say it's a perfect album because of X, Y, and Z, the only reason, the main reason why I say, well, Trout Mask Replica is one of the best albums ever made, is simply because that's exactly what Don Van Vliet wanted the album to sound like. He achieved the emotion perfectly in such a signature way that was so unapologetic. Because unfortunately, with a lot of musicians, it's really like there's creative drawbacks, like what if this doesn't sell, or what if people don't enjoy it that much? Whereas with Trout Mask Replica, it was about establishing emotion and growing it and letting it blossom, and that's why it resonates with a lot of people, and that's why it resonates with me, because it's so outlandish and so weird. And especially with where I haven't watched any of the films of David Lynch, but I've really gotten interested in the fact that he's into transcendental meditation, and he's creatively, he's really on point. He said something that I just thought is really interesting, which is ideas, you have to catch them. They don't just happen, you have to catch them. And they kind of piece together. And I found that really, really interesting, and it's kind of shaped the way that I think about the way musicians make music.
Yeah, you have to be available to it. There's something else there when you're talking about Beefheart as well. It made me think about this Thelonious Monk quote where it says the genius is the one who's most like himself. I like that because it's like well, it smashes the kind of myth of the genius for a start, but also he's just saying that anybody has access to that. You just have to let those other things fall away and just concentrate on what it is. Just focus on it and make it. So I like that. I have got my doubts about the transcendental meditation, only just because they charge so much money to let you in on the
Oh yeah.
secret, and it strikes me as a pity. And also, yeah, like if you gotta, if it could change the world, I don't doubt that it could have massive effects, but why hide it behind a paywall? You know, yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I haven't tried it myself, and I'd be quite hesitant to.
Yeah.
Like obviously, my lack of income provides a boundary, but also the fact that yeah, there is that paywall. But I do think there's even something that can be taken from that idea of maybe stripping things down to bare level and not even just the meditative part of it. But I just think it was interesting hearing about this creator. Just instead of thinking about something that was happening externally, something that was happening internally, and then contrasting that to ideas he had himself, and then putting that in an external world. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because then when you're hearing albums like even End of the Middle, it's such a deeply personal record, and yet when it's put into the external, the other 7 billion people that are living, or the other 8 billion people on the planet, it's resonating with people. That sometimes what even only one person could understand at the time, when it's put through an art form, it can really make sense to a lot of people out there.
Yeah. Yeah, or even if it doesn't, then you still have to try. Um, we just put with my other band, Henna Glev, we just put a single out yesterday, and it's always a funny feeling of, you know, you have your experience of it is your own for so long. You live with it for a year or two, and then you push a button and suddenly it's out in the world. Like, it's a strange thing, but now we have no control over it.
Do you ever find it like sad when you maybe make a record really, really personal, like with End of the Middle, and you have to put it, you maybe are putting it out and you're excited to put it out, when it becomes other people's, or does that maybe personal aspect of it never go away?
No, it is a bittersweet thing. There's a lot going on, I think, because you, uh, because you worked on it so long, it kind of maybe give you a structure to your life, or it was like a companion in some way. And then when you give it away, then, oh, I'm on my own in a way. Now I have to find the next thing, but there's always a sort of dip. There's an anticlimactic element to it. You know, you sort of build up to the release of the first video, say, or the album release day, and it's always, or even just holding the record in your hand, and it's always like, huh, oh, I don't feel that much, and actually you realize all of the big feelings came when you were making it, when it was first appearing, when you were honing it down, or what have you, when you were recording it, and you were already giving it away long before. So it's always a strange, bittersweet thing for sure. But then, you know, you got to put it out into the world and see what it does. You can't just, yeah. What's the sense in keeping it to yourself?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and especially with because if some people don't know, three of Richard's records, Peasant, 2020, and the Ruby Chord, are part of a trilogy, and the Ruby Chord being the last one and prefacing End of the Middle. I was just curious, when you were making those records, were you aware that they were part of a trilogy, and was that bittersweet feeling there when you finished maybe 2020, or were you kind of going, it's fine because I'm still continuing this idea. It's all kind of interconnected still, that you still hadn't completed it yet.
Um, I think at the end of 2020, I was just relieved because it was so horrible to make. Part of the reason it was horrible was just because of the content of it was, a lot of it was quite upsetting. But then another reason was the guitar I was recording it on was a fantastic guitar, but it was too big for my hands. I've just got little hands, but I bought this guitar because it was amazing. I said, "Oh my God, that's the best guitar I've played by a mile." It was a Shabbat Lion, and I'm not a big guitar person either. I'm trying not to get too bogged into that stuff. But set off recording the album. I set off recording the album, and it was too big for my hands. But I thought, well, okay, there was something in it that was quite correct. Like, this should be a struggle. But the whole I was just so frustrated throughout the whole recording. Like, it was,
Really?
I was just so many takes and failing to play it, and I was like really tense. So actually, with that album, I was just glad it wasn't fun to make at all. It was interesting to make, but so I was just relieved more than anything to get that one done.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting album because the first record that I heard of yours was End of the Middle, and I kind of heard it and I was going like, this sounds, because I originally saw it from a review from the Needle Drop. I went, okay, well, I'm gonna check it out anyways, and I heard it and I was going, this sounds like nothing I've ever heard before, again establishing a sound. And from there, now becoming a fan of yours, hearing End of the Middle and then the Ruby chord, and then backtracking to Nothing Important, then coming back to 2020. It's really interesting hearing all these different sounds. And with the Ruby chord as well, I wanted to ask you about one thing that just absolutely stunned me and floored me as a song. It was incredible. Undertaking 40 minutes as a song for The Hermit. What was that like? Was that all a one take recording, or was that across a couple of takes?
No, I think the take, I think it's probably made up. We didn't do that many takes of it, but I think we did 5 takes in the studio. And so the first section, the kind of instrumental section, is maybe stitched together of a few parts. But then I think the next section sort of quite long, like whole passages, and we probably just chose the best whole passage with a few little fixes. But we did 4 or 5 takes, and I think we felt like, oh, we've got that. It was never quite so long in the start originally. When I was writing it, I knew, oh, this is kind of shaping up to be like a 20-minute song. Actually, when I started to practice it and go like, oh, this is like 26, 27 minutes. There's certain things here. Actually, why not lean into that a bit more and start to stretch it out? And I was thinking about, musicians I really like outside of the song genre. I love Eliane Radigue, if you've
Oh,
heard of
I've
her.
heard of her. She came up on my Boomcat account recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. Probably my favorite composer, like most important musician to me, who makes these very long form drone pieces.
I heard of her album Trilogy de la Mort.
It's fantastic.
I don't know how I'm pronouncing that right, and I do French, so that's like so.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, and that's like 3 hours, that album.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. That's a real classic one. Adnos is another one, and then Songs of Miller Rapper and Lil Resonant. They're like very
I
good ones.
haven't heard any of those, so I must listen to
When you get into it, it's really good music to work to and sleep to, but if it's also great, you talk about meditation. I think this is like apart from playing guitar, this is my meditation, is putting on Eliane Radigue, and you can just go so deep, and every listen is unique as well, because it depends on the room you're at, your frame of mind, and there's just so many layers, so many kind of fathoms to her electronic pieces, particularly. How did I get into it?
We were talking about The Hermit and how long it was.
Yeah, so it was just like, well, I like that. Like, I was a little bit hesitant to do it, just thinking, oh, will people go with this? But then that thing of like, no, well, I shouldn't worry what people think. And actually, it was appropriate to the story as well, appropriate to the kind of idea of kind of an electronic slumber that somebody might be immersed in. So it just felt appropriate to stretch out that beginning as well, and then the end stretched out too. That this very kind of picturesque scene of the boats in the on the sea, just sort of looping around with slight changes. As well, that felt quite true. Like life feels a bit like that sometimes. Things just loop around with little changes.
Yeah.
So it was just not, you have to just put out of your mind if, of course, I thought people wouldn't like it, but you just have to, yeah. You hope people will like it, but you can't let that direct you, for sure.
Yeah, and I think as well with long form pieces, for me personally, who's like loves the emotion music but is also quite ignorant, long songs are brilliant for me because it means I finally get the emotion by the end of it. I'm going, oh, that's what this is about. And that's why I think as well with it's funny where you're saying about Elaine Radigue. Again, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right.
Eliane.
Eliane Radigue. Where you were saying about her music, I think as well with there's a lot of music like that with the Hermit or drone metal as well. Some of drone metal can be quite submersive. It's going to be interesting listening back to the Hermit after this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, well, you mentioned Boris before and Sun. I mean, Sun always in my mind a little bit as well. Think about their Black album and the album they made with Boris. I love that track, "The Sinking Bell." That was actually in my mind a lot when making the Hermit.
Yeah, it's quite that song's quite beautiful, and it actually reminds me. There's a couple of tracks that are actually in that vein that I recently discovered Sigur Rós, and their new version of Tack's really, really good.
Okay.
And I love listening to, there's this one song on it called Hoppy Pola, and it's just such a beautiful track. And I think like The Sinking Bell and Hoppy Pola, and they have another song, I can't pronounce it correctly, but it's like Svefin Engla or something, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But they have this like 10-minute song, blue cover, second track or something like that. On this blue covered album, I know, very vague, but
Is it the one? It's got like a white.
yes, like a white child nearly on it, and it's a very beautiful track. And I think the Hermit is also in that vein because there's a lot to. Because I was listening to that after I came back from the library with my my grandfather and my sister. I was just sitting in my sitting room, like going, "Whoa, this is amazing."
That's cool. Maybe this is my chance actually. So Sigur Rós, one of the guys from them came. I was doing a session with the Black Twig Pickers in Maida Vale studio about 10 years ago, something like that. And one of the guys from Sigur Rós came in to say hello, but I didn't really know them, and the Black Twig Pickers we were all sort of focused on what we were doing, and the guy seemed so friendly. I mean, this would be a big deal for a lot of people, and we were just all like, all right. We must have been really unwelcoming, so this is my official apology to Sigur Rós, whichever member of Sigur Rós it was. So sorry not to say a proper hello. I was a dickhead. Excuse my French.
No worries. Wow, that's really, really interesting. And I'd love to talk to you actually about speaking of kind of inspirations, like what you were saying about Blue Sheep and thinking about that track, The Sinking Bell, while making The Hermit. I wanted to ask you about the Time and Where archives.
Mm-hmm.
And searching up, was it Murder? That it was something along those lines that you searched up for one of the tracks. I'd like to ask, when did that idea come into your head? Just to what did you think you were going to get song inspiration from that? Or
I wasn't sure. That project came along, so it was Tyneway Museums. A guy called John Coburn engaged me to do this project, and it was basically to highlight the archives in any way I would like, and I guess they figured it would be something to do with songs. When I started to think about it, I wasn't sure what to do really. I'd never been in the archives before, but I started to think. It was around that time I'd heard like the Watersons for the first time, and Mike Waterson's solo album particularly, which is a great album. It's got him herding some sheep on the front.
I've never heard of it.
It's a great. Oh, is it sure? He's got a wheelbarrow, and I think that he's sort of just. It's really good. But so I thought, oh, maybe I could do like an album which is just no guitar, and then it tied in with this offer to go in the archives. So when you get there, you realize you can't walk around the archives. You have to ask the people there to get your stuff. So all you've got really is a search computer engine, and you have to find a way to find things. So I was just doing a keyword search for particular places that were important to me. And I started thinking, well, I wonder I started to write like death, murder, ghosts, just anything like kind of juicy. I knew I wanted to make a historical something, but I wanted it to kind of be macabre and a bit on the darker side. So it was just those kind of words. And then most of what came through was maybe, just a photograph here, a letter there, lots of beautiful handwritten letters. And but one of the things that came was this huge scrapbook. It was probably about this big, about that thick, that somebody had made of, they'd put together of newspaper clippings, but all of the stories that they'd clipped out were about murder, death, weird things happening, supernatural things, like a comet flashing across the sky, and people thought that it caused a cholera epidemic. Lots of assaults, song lyrics, weird songs, and it was just like, who has put this together?
Why did they put it together?
But amazing, and it was like late 1700s through to maybe 1840, 1850, and then they started another one as well. So
the second volume, due to high demand.
Yeah, and you sort of go, well, this has just been sitting in there for who knows how long, but it's full of. I mean, every article was like a story, and really, there was so much. I could have, had the basis for another 5 albums from there.
And did you ever return to the Tyne and Wear archives?
I took some friends back and showed them this book.
Wow.
It was really something. There's there's amazing things in there. There's things like certain arrows which still have the particular tribe that they came from put poison on the end of the arrows, and they still have the poison on, so they're in there. Lots of like specimens. There's actually something I'm researching for at the moment. I'm researching passenger pigeons, which is a very interesting topic. But there's a passenger pigeon in that Tyne and Wear museums have. I haven't been able to see it yet, but fingers crossed. So yeah, who knows what else is in there. But
wow.
it was like, you've got a blank canvas. How do you find a way in? Oh, just death. You're 14. You don't need to worry about it too much now. But like, that word gets larger and larger as you become a middle-aged fart.
Wow.
It's coming to you. The middle-aged fart bit, not the.
Oh, okay.
Death. Well, that's coming too, but not
not to worry about now.
No.
But I think that's just slightly ominous. All right, a bit of food for thought. I'll be mid-gig, just like staring off into the distance, just going like, But
Yeah.
it's really, really interesting. And I was reading that and I was going like, that actually sounds like a really interesting thing to research, just to go into an archive in search of death and just see what comes up. And I think all of your albums have really, really interesting themes, and especially with 2020, as we mentioned, that's by the present. The Ruby chord is about the future, and then the end of the middle is also about the present, but also kind of about the past. It links between different generations in such a beautiful way. And I wanted to ask you, when you're trying to make this album and you're kind of only making the blueprint for it, but you're trying to make all these songs of different generations, is it hard to fit it all in? Is it hard to try and put all these stories into a similar context, even though they're from different times?
Um. Well, it's hard, but it's easy. It's like, you just have to follow it. But then it's like, I don't know. Do you want to try one of my vocal zones, Bo? Because these are really good. They're like the best. This is like singer's friend.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very
I'm
much.
gonna have one.
I might just have some of my
Have some of the green
detox
juice.
juice.
Also,
Brilliant.
I apologize if I was just sort of thinking maybe it's not appropriate for a grown man to make a young man think about death. You don't need to think about. You don't need to think
Oh
about it.
no. I know what you mean. And also I did kind of ask about why you searched up death in the kind of where archives. I wouldn't have expected you to talk about life.
No, I just when you were asking your last question, I was just thinking. I was struggling to concentrate because I was just weighing up whether that was really inappropriate of me to say. But in my defense, I'll say like these thoughts about death and being drawn to search for it are like it's not about like negative. It's about like
there's a beauty to it.
well, it's more about like how to power life. You can use these things to it makes you to make you more alive.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
But we were talking about the end of the middle and the different generations that are in it. And I also wanted to ask you, when you're going from talking about, because especially again, I keep bringing up 2020, and you said it was such a horrible album to make. I'm not bringing it up just to be annoying. I'm just bringing it up just because it's with jogging, it's about a man with anxiety, and then on Civil Servant, it's about, you guessed it. So you're developing all these characters, but when you're taking it to, you're still on all of these. You're talking about different characters. On Gondola, it's a grandmother. So, I want to ask though, taking it down maybe to a more family level, how did you find that kind of coming back to that very personal place? Was it difficult, or did writing come a lot easier to you, or did you have a lot more freedom?
Yeah, I think it's a bit more. It's difficult in some ways because it's a bit closer to home. So I don't know. You feel, I don't know. It's just a bit more delicate or something like that. But then also, like the research side is much easier because I didn't really need to research much at all because it's drawn from things that I know about or friends' lives or one of the hardest things was like the Ruby chord had been challenging to write in a way, but also really free because it was this more fantastical, poetic language. So you have a lot more freedom in a way. You can use a lot more like kind of ornate language.
Plus, you started the album with a 40-minute song, so you could have thrown in anything.
Yeah, and you got a lot of space.
Yeah.
So a lot more flexibility, whereas this one actually was very compact and small, and also because of the kind of language that you have to use, it's a lot more precise. So you got less choices, less roads to take, because you can't go to poetry a lot of the time. You can't go to more flowery, that's not the right word, but more colourful language, because it just isn't true to how people think a lot of the time. Sometimes they do, but a lot of the time we're just thinking very, I think, like it's just trying to be faithful to how these characters would think in a moment and how they would be experiencing things. So plain language and maybe a little confused language, but but not. We don't think in fancy words. We're not like. I don't think that we, in our own minds, we're as erudite as we are when we're talking with other people. I had another thought there, but it's gone. Oh yeah, I wondered whether you were a reader, because you seem to pick up on the words.
Yeah, I am a reader. I haven't read as much as I would like to
Yeah.
in the last little while out of my own laziness, but I just finished The Silence of the Lambs
Oh my
and
God.
I watched the film, and I found them both really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm about to embark on reading The Grapes of Wrath.
Okay.
And also, here's two just book things that tie into actually you. The first thing is, I also like to read songs in the key of MP3, which you actually marked in the book, that there's a little Richard review, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, well, he makes a chapter on Sophie, who's a really great musician.
Yeah, I saw you on Cambridge Audio with her new re-release, and I haven't listened to Sophie, because I'm a troglodyte, but
I don't think you are. No, Sophie is incredible. Like a total, just that feeling of. It gets a bit harder as you get older to be surprised by music or to be confused. I really like that. And I remember the first time I heard Sophie, it was just like, what? 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 How? And to hear something just so new and daring was, yeah, amazing artist. And that's a great book. It's a lovely chapter.
And you mentioned in the Cambridge Audio interview that I saw, which as well as with Sophie, you mentioned Ursula K. Le Guin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking out I'm going into Dublin after Christmas, and there's a brilliant bookshop, and I don't know, have you been there, called Hodges Figus?
Oh,
And it's 3 or 4 stories tall, and it's, I think, Ireland's longest running bookshop. They have everything. So I'm going to look for an Ursula K. Le Guin book, so that when I'm sad in the new year, I get to read it.
Very good.
So that it kind of
Yeah,
picks me up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, she's amazing. I love Earthsea. The whole of Earthsea is really good. Really, really good. Yeah, I looked in the Lost bookshop just around the corner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just like 5 minutes from here, but it's like piles everywhere. It's really
Oh, wow.
things. Some people knocked a big tower of books over. It was really good. Yeah, that would be, well, Steinbecker's really exciting as well. I mean, yeah, that's a great book. East of Eden is amazing, and The Pearl is a short one. That's a beauty. There's one other which I read of Steinbeck, which I've lost the name of. It's not one of the better known ones. If it comes back to me, I'll tell. But yeah, Ursula Le Guin was really important. I read Ursula maybe 2 years ago now, and maybe a bit longer. And I won't give too much away, but it sort of concerns a wizard who at some point loses his power, a young wizard. And I had felt in my life that I'd lost my power. So I read Earthsea all the time looking for an answer, how I can get my power back. So it was very emotional for me, Earthsea, very important set of books.
Well, that sounds amazing and really, really beautiful. And I think the best art is not the art that any time you could have looked at it in your life, you would have liked it. But it's the art that at the time of your life when you hear it, it means the most to you. Like, for example, End of the Middle, I said to you before we did this interview, it's my album of the year. And the reason why is because at the time when I was listening to it, I had never heard something so domestic and so at home. Even my two other albums that I love this year, my kind of runners up, one's called they're two pop albums. One's Sable Fable by Bon Iver, and the other one's called Glory by Perfume Genius.
Okay.
And both of which, again, I don't think I would have really adored. I would have liked them, but I wouldn't have adored them unless they came at the time that they did. Because it was from maybe listening to Sable Fable, just kind of hearing this, because Sable's the dark side, Fable's the light side, it's kind of going, how you're learning about where I was starting secondary school at the time and kind of getting to know people, and personalities were shifting, my own personality was shifting, and contrasting that with the album, going, I'm noticing changing myself while noticing changing the album was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even the same with Glory, which is such a vulnerable album. So that's why, where you've got these two albums that are all about change and are quite intense to listen to, for me, End of the Middle was something that was a lot more at home. That it's nearly like something that was a solid thing.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. The domestic side was really important, and it was partly inspired by the films of Ozu. If you've come across any of those, Tokyo Stories is most famous one, and Late Spring, and some other things. These films were big inspiration. He called himself a tofu maker because he basically felt somewhat that he was making the same thing over and over very carefully, and his films feature the same actors a lot of time, the same storylines, and they're generally all pretty much set within the confines of family home, and they just concern the conversations around drama happening in the characters' lives, but they're really, really beautiful. It's like very quiet and controlled. The camera doesn't move very much. It doesn't, like, I put off watching them until a few years ago because I just thought, I don't know. I kept reading about them. You read about these films in Sight and Sound. You go, it's the best film ever made, but I don't know. I don't fancy that. And actually, it was completely amazing to watch. So it was a big impact on the album for sure.
I must check that out. And I think I came across a guy on the Criterion Collection, because that really got me into films like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
I discovered that and I just went, whoa. And then I met someone in school who's a young filmmaker, who's quite a bit older than me, and he was telling me about these different films, and it was really, really interesting. And one person who I came across, I don't know how I pronounced his name correctly, but it was something along the lines of Abbas Kiarostami. Yeah. And they put out like a box set. And before we finish up, I just wanted to mention that, like, I think I haven't got to watch his films yet, but even where you were describing Ozu, that's what it reminded me of, because it's all about kids and their simple lives. There's a film about like what kids think of their homework and what should happen with their homework. And I'm excited to watch something like that, because again, it's that domestic feel of not everything has to be on a universal level. Sometimes it just has to be on the level of one person to really make an impact.
Yeah. I like a small film. I don't know what that film was by him. I've seen a few of his. I really like 10 is a film just set inside a taxi cab. But there was some controversy around it as well. The actor maybe quite rightly claimed that she had a big stake in making the film, but I think it's worth holding off reading about it until you've watched the film, because it's really good, and then read about the backstory of what happened afterwards. But that would be mine. That'll be in that box set, I'm sure.
Yeah,
should be anyway.
I haven't. I don't have a Blu-ray player, so I haven't bought it. But I'm gonna try and find it on YouTube, some of the films or something. Because but I've gotten very interested in that kind of vibe, and I'm gotten really interested in End of the Middle. So I want to thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you.
Come here, talking to me about it.